The cancer of the 21st business is commoditization, a condition where the products look alike, feel alike, perform alike, except for price. Ferocious price competition is the new law of the land in the excess supply world. McDonald's is a good example. 10 years ago, if you walked into a Big Mac store, you could buy McDonald's for 99 cents. Today, go to McDonald's stores, you'll buy a Big Mac for 99 cents. That is the lack of pricing power that businesses face throughout the developed world. And the devastating resultant reality for most businesses: lower prices, lower margins, lower profits. That's kind of a welcome to the 21st century excess supply world. And as a consequence of the shift from excess demand to excess supply, the 10,000-year war between providers and consumers is finally over. And the consumers have been declared the ultimate decisive winners. Importantly, many of the lessons that brought success in the excess demand world no longer apply. As I mentioned, many of the old rules are painfully counterproductive. Too few business leaders, too few business writers, too few companies recognize or understand the significance of this seismic shift. Procter & Gamble is a good example. P&G was the quintessential excess demand company. Their 50-year success story from the end of World War II was legendary. Their winning formula was simple and powerful. Uncover a consumer functional need, develop quality products, and sell through mass advertising, and they did. But in the early 1990s, when the excess supply and commoditization sneaked into town, they found P&G unprepared. The company had become arrogant with their success, uncharacteristically disconnected from their consumers. As a result, P&G floundered. For nearly 10 years, they lost their way. During that period, 4 CEOs came and went. Finally, A.G. Lafley came to the rescue. He recognized a whole new world had emerged. He may not have labeled it excess supply, but he got the meaning of the shift. He's now aware of the dread of commoditization. He launched an aggressive crusade towards differentiation and product innovation. And the consumer's needs became the source of his and their inspiration. To their great credit, P&G changed, and it is now back on track. So what are the implications of the excess supply world on business? Among them, to meticulously and continuously cut costs to increase productivity, the entry tickets. But then to focus on constant innovation, to recognize that the ultimate consumer is now king, they lead the dance. To build relationships and trust with customers and consumers. To build strong brands based on relevant differentiation. To develop superior knowledge of the end consumer. And finally, to be able to identify the key strategies for success in these challenging 21st century excess supply world. But in the end, I assert that excess supply is most likely to be with us for decades and decades to come. Finally, the third force, I need to say a little more about it: political instability and risk. As long as there are a huge number of people disconnected from the global free enterprise system, political and social instability will prevail and thrive. Terror is becoming a way of life, and more will come. Other forms of instability in our own backyard could be created by the disconnected, the disenfranchised in our own communities, the elderly poor, the discriminating ethnic minorities, the uneducated and alienated youth, among others. Now, I believe that businessmen and women have an active and constructive frontline role in helping to combat terror, in helping to improve the standard of living of millions upon millions in a most fundamental way. Business leaders and business professionals are the connective tissues between the disconnected and free enterprise. In the developing world, business people will become the ambassadors, the positive role models for the values of free enterprise. How people, men and women, behave, not only what they do, but how they conduct themselves in business, will telegraph to the developing world whether they should aspire to our way of life or whether they should reject us. And some of the alienated will become the foot soldiers in terrorist armies. Sadly, for years to come, we have to learn to live with risk, with instability, with social disorders, with acts of terror, and the threat of terror. All of that will be part of our real world. So there you have it, the key, likely major forces affecting your business life, the powerful engine of free enterprise, the excess supply business paradigm, and lots of instability and risk. That is the context in which the business world will perform in the decades ahead, and these are the critical insights tomorrow's business leaders must grasp and internalize. So then what will it take? What are the strategies for you and other business leaders to make it in this fierce, tough, competitive environment I talked about? Let me attempt to provide some insights by focusing on 4 enduring principles I promised. 4 strategies which captures the source of success. First, you, along with all businesses, will have to embrace creativity as the most vital, critical enterprise resource. Creativity has become the only leverageable asset on a company's non-GAAP balance sheet. In a world where most all needed resources are relatively accessible and cheap, the only discriminating and leverageable resource for an organization is its creative capacity. Creativity has many vital roles in business. Let me just mention one, I believe the most important one. It's the process of invention and innovation designed to produce and provide consumers with a real and perceived superior product experience. Creativity is the force that brings sustainable differentiation and in turn sustainable growth, relevance, and profitability. Remember the cancer of commoditization? Creativity is the cure for product sameness, for lack of differentiation, for low prices, margins, and profits. Yes, differentiation drives margins and profits. That is a proven fact. And relevant differentiation can be built only by creativity in the human mind. Creativity is an amazing capacity. It's an inexhaustible resource. The more you use it, the stronger and more plentiful it gets. Creativity is also a fragile resource. It needs to be supported, encouraged, nurtured. It cannot be forced. You can't motivate creativity by fear or intimidation, and I'll tell you why. It's simply because creativity and creative acts happen when the brain emits lower electromagnetic wave frequencies, which in turn require a brain at peace. That's the reality of biology. On the other hand, creativity need not be babied. One can and must set high aspirations for the output. The creative output can and must be measured. Creative acts can and should be rewarded based on performance and results. In the end, creativity becomes the most powerful arrow in America's economic quiver. Creativity will become the battleground for future of business. It will fuel free enterprise engine. It will become the major sustainable differentiator between success and failure. Without creativity, American enterprises will become makers of commodity products and services in a battle we simply cannot win. Institutionalizing creativity becomes the first lines of defense against the fierce attacks coming from China, from India, and later from other developing nations. So I suggest that we all must embrace creativity. We must learn the creative process. We must teach it in our schools and universities. And you, first and foremost, must become students of creativity. Use it, manage it, teach it. It will reward you exponentially. In the end, those managers who understand and respect creative power learn how to manage and to harness its force to produce results will become winning leaders and their organizations winning enterprises. So creativity ultimately is the key to differentiating yourself. But once you do, how do you establish and maintain a lasting loyal friendship with the customer? Much of it has to do with execution. Being able to make every part of that relationship easy and natural. When they call you, they want to hear a human voice, not a computerized maze of instructions on what number to punch. When they want something, find a way to give it to them. But to really build loyalty, a customer has to believe in you. And for this to happen, you must have a strong, deep set of values. The second imperative is the need to adapt the concept of enlightened leadership. Say goodbye to Mr. Tough Guy, the ugly, mean-spirited tyrant. He will be gone. You'd say, why can I say that? In these tough times, don't we need tough leaders? Tough, yes. Fair, yes. Supportive, yes. Mean, nasty, tyrannical, no. Absolutely no. If you look back at a bit of economic history, it could shed a bit of a light on why that is. You know, in the old era, in a manufacturing-driven universe, the tough, mean-spirited tyrant could thrive, not only survive. In that era, humans were simply productive robots. What was asked of them was to produce. The more the better, the faster the better, the same the better. Don't think, just do. In the excess supply world, all that is changing. As we have said, the excess supply world, the customer is king. Relationship with customers are all important. Strong brands win. More and more employees interface with customers, and those interfaces matter more and more. So to optimize enterprise value, every employee will soon become a creative contributor. The enlightened leader will be defined by some new qualities: understanding, communicating, and convincing critical constituency of the enterprise mission and values. He or she must walk the walk. Believe me, people pay attention to what you as leaders do, not just what you say. So walk the mission and both the personal and corporate values. And since creativity is vital, the enlightened leader is supportive, sets high aspiration, and demands excellence from investments in creativity. The enlightened leader never ducks the hard calls. They explain their decision, they listen, they learn, they consider, but they are always decisive and always fair. The enlightened leader that subscribes to the management style of we. The I word loses power, meaning, and impact. The new world is more than ever about cooperation and teamwork. The company leader must reflect that attitude. And finally, the enlightened leader must be the foremost cheerleader, advocate, and supporter of the customer, the consumer interest in that company. The third principle I suggest, is to acquire the basic competency of general business, of your industry, of your company, of the world business around you.